Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever we happen to be. There we go, slide one. My name is Michael Thelander. I'm with Axiad. The name of this talk is the identity diaspora. And diaspora is an interesting word. It's an interesting language. It's an interesting word, but it's really, really old. It actually comes from ancient Greek, and it really means a verb, to scatter something. So I like this image of a dandelion because we obviously go to thinking about dandelions being dispersed and scattered and seeds being scattered and everywhere. But what we want to talk about in this conversation, what all of us are going to kind of engage in, is a little bit about the consequences, the unintended consequences sometimes of that diaspora, of that dispersion of seeds everywhere, of, in this case, identity seeds everywhere, and where those identities are actually used. So this is the identity diaspora, modern identity risks and how to manage them. I am joined today by my fellow presenters, starting off right here on the screen with Jay Doyle, the VP of Cybersecurity Operations from Leidos. Jay, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Michael. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Happy New Year, and thanks for joining us today. I'm also joined by Bassam Al-Khalidu, who is a co-founder and chief innovation officer here at Axiad. Bassam, how are you today?
Doing all right.
Great to hear. I'm Michael Thelander, the Senior Director of Product Marketing at Axiad. We did this presentation at the Gartner Identity and Access Management Summit in December, had great feedback, great questions, great response from the audience. Great response afterwards was people came by our booth where we were sharing about some new products and new concepts that we have. But we really thought that we wanted to share this with a broader audience. Hence, that's what we're doing today. We're going to take this presentation, share it with the rest of the world. And we're going to start off with some questions. And if I asked you how many organizations experienced identity-related attacks in the last year, talking about identity and identity risk, the number's possibly higher than you think. From the Identity Defined Security Alliance, they said 91% in their latest survey of organizations experienced an identity-related attack last year. How many credentials were released in this RockU24 distribution, which was part two of a distribution from about 2 years ago? 10 billion credentials available in a plain text format in that particular distribution in that release. That's a big number. And if we look at enterprise identities, which is our real primary area of concern, the identities we use to manage and run and work in our enterprises, what do we project for the increase in those? About 2.5 times. And that's based on a survey from CyberArk from last year and this year. That follows last year's 2.5% increase. So if you can imagine, over the last 2 or 3 years, 250% year over year increase in the number of identities that we have to manage, whether human identities or machine identities. So today we're going to talk about that problem, the problem in the state of identities, where we're at with identity management. We're going to bring Jay in to talk about some Leidos perspectives, this perspective of a technology-rich, innovating Fortune 500 company around identity risk and what that potentially means. Bassam is going to share some discussion about clarity or confusion, the categories that we create to define risk, particularly in cybersecurity, and products and technologies and capabilities in cybersecurity. Do they help us? Do they hurt us? How can we pull them together? Bassam's going to give us some perspective on that. Then I'm going to talk about 3 pillars of identity risk management. So we're going to start off with another series of questions real quick. The number of identities used by knowledge workers in our organizations, whether that's here at Axiad or Leidos or any organization that we work with, what's the average number of identities that we use? Over 30. Latest research says over 30 digital identities used by every knowledge worker. 45-to-1 ratio of machine identities to human identities used in commercial and government environments. And then, as some of the conversation we're going to have later, Jay's going to talk about development environments and what that's done to the use of machine identities as well as human identities. And we'll see how that is rapidly expanding and increasing. And then from a perspective of just looking at the space, when people look at identity fabric in Google, they do Google searches on the phrase identity fabric. What's the change? Well, over the last year, about 18 months, it jumped from 15 million to 68 million searches and results around identity fabric. That's a pretty significant increase. And all of this comes back to the notion of identity sprawl. Identity sprawl, which is really where you take one identity and you start using that identity in lots of different places, multiple user accounts used by multiple different systems that aren't necessarily synchronized or managed centrally. And from a condition perspective, like how does this happen? This is what happens when operational focused processes take precedence over security focused processes. We tend to lead into this identity sprawl. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about how we pull that back into the cybersecurity realm rather than into the sort of the operational realm, the IT operational realm of how to get these things set up.
To watch the full video, click the link below to our Bright Talk channel. For more Axiad content, click subscribe.